So, good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Doing great. Yourself?
Um, Mixed feelings today. Mixed feelings. Yeah. So, probably wonder why.
Yeah. You wanna share why?
Today is the birthday of a friend of mine that passed away a few years ago, and well, it's always confronting that to get the pop up on your phone that it would be his birthday if we would be still alive, and yeah, that kind of made me think maybe we could discuss something about his passing today in our podcast because he didn't die of natural causes, but he took his own life. Um,
Hmm,
and yeah, that maybe it's an
that's
interesting.
sad.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, maybe we can go into mental health and specifically men's mental health, since yeah, men are record holders in suicide, which isn't a record to be proud of, obviously.
Yeah. I think one of the major reason why men tend to are prone to consider committing suicide is we don't talk much about our problems. We tend to hide it and cover it with whatever else we have going on in our lives. So, and that eats us too deep that it goes out of control, that we don't even know, we are not aware what is going on until it's kind of too late to fix or for anybody to notice. So, but women, on the other hand, they are very easy or easier to discuss things with their friends or relatives. While men, we don't discuss that much. And also, there's a sense of responsibility that men carry, the weight that the men carry, and um, so that also leads to a lot of, for example, if a man is struggling, uh, who is a parent, a father is struggling financially, for example, but just to clarify, most people that commit suicide are not people struggling financially; they're struggling based on different reasons. But just an example, if someone is struggling financially as a man, as a father, people don't help or people offer less help compared to if it was a woman that was struggling. Um, for men, people would just say, go get a job and go man up and do this and don't cry. But for women, it's okay to cry. It's okay to offer help and those kind of things. And they talk about it and they help each other compared to men. So those could be a couple of reasons why most suicide cases are men.
Yeah, I think the fact the points you make, I, the reason, yeah, the, it's just hard, right? So talking about your issues is hard, especially when people around you say just man up. That's a cultural thing that you see a lot, where apparently as a man you can't feel sad or down. Um, and the other thing is that feeling alone in those issues. Yeah, I can
Mhm.
imagine that at the end of that funnel, you feel like there's only one way out, even though that is not only damaging to yourself because you end your own life, but also very damaging to your environment because at the end you will be missed and you will cause a lot of grief. So I do think that there has been a lot of um, discussion about men's mental health and speaking up about it. But I don't know if this is really something that is going to work if If some key figures say you need to you you need to talk more about your feelings or check in with your friends. I don't know if people will do that. I don't know how that works because I don't see any of those numbers in a steep decline. Maybe it's a cultural thing that needs to change over generations, and maybe it will take a lot of time to change that. I don't know.
And one other thing is, even if someone does try to talk about it to his friends about his mental status, I believe we are not equipped enough to know how to react or what to do if a friend is telling us he's strongly mentally. Probably what we're going to say is go to a therapist, go for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really sure how to be there, even if we want to uh, be supportive. We're not sure if we are going to do the right thing for that
Yeah,
person.
yeah, I can relate to that. It's very hard to if you see someone struggling to go to this person and say, I, I see that you are struggling. Can I help you with something? By just acknowledging that they are, or ask the question, are you
Yeah.
okay? It feels like you're struggling a little. Can I help you with something? I think, like I'm saying it out loud to you now, is because it's safe, because I don't really feel like you're struggling right now. um, but if someone is visibly uh, in pain or something, mentally in pain, I don't know if that's easy. You just joke it off a little. Here, take it free. My friend that passed away came from a completely different area. And it's unrelated to that specific situation, but I live in an area where there is for the whole country is a very high rate of suicide amongst youngsters. It has been a trend of young men between 16 and 20, 22, something that age. Uh, they kill themselves. Um, there
Mhm.
was many occasions in a few years from the same group of people, same group
16
of
to 20
yeah,
teenagers.
very young, yeah. And then there was a documentary about this, and it was heartbreaking. It was a freaking heartbreaking documentary to see that the documentary makers unraveled the fact that these people, these young boys, had a large group of friends. They had a big social life. They went out every weekend. So you figure this is fine, right? But the only thing they did was laugh and drink a lot. They wouldn't talk about their feelings. There was no way of talking about the feelings. They didn't talk about the feelings at home. So it was a very culturally, mentally closed situation where it was in the area where they live very normal not to talk about your feelings and very normal not to speak up about it. And apparently that caused in this group of men, yeah, a whole chain of events where um, even the train drivers, because most of these suicides happened by train, jumping in front of a train, actually. Train drivers didn't want to go up certain parts of the track, or they would slow down the train to go very slowly because they were afraid that there was
Someone
someone going
might
to
jump.
jump in front of it. Yeah. So it was a very serious situation.
Was there any discovery? Maybe it was linked to studies, stress from studies. Because I'm curious why
Mm,
teenagers are committing suicide.
no, no, the documentary really went into the social environment of these kids and the way they could express themselves, which seemed okay at first, but the uncovering of the fact that emotions were never discussed. And it's a regional thing, right? I live in a rural area where people are traditionally hard on themselves and hard on each other. Hard work, no complaining, suck it up. That's basically the demeanor. So I've been working on the lands when I was younger here, the agricultural fields, right? It was always the same thing. If you were hurting because it was cold or everything, it was always Come on, don't complain. Suck it up. Finish the job. And you would finish the job. You would work 10 hours or 12 hours a day. Didn't matter. You just finish the job.
Yeah.
So the one thing that you get from that is you become a bit harder on yourself, because but the other downside is that if that's the environment you receive, not only on the physical level but also on mental challenges, you really get locked up in your head. But there is no real evidence of this all being related. It's just a pattern of things you see happening which makes sense as a reason. They did break that chain, so the suicides here in the region has not ended completely but lowered. So I think there were some programs to give more space to talk about emotions and help educate. So I think that on the short term did work, but my worry is on the long term. Will this affect? I mean, if these kids growing up in that environment, will they teach their children to talk about their emotions and regulate that better, especially for the boys, because this is more a boys' issue than a girls' issue. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's also related to what we mentioned earlier. When the suicide rate was high for those that age range,
Mm-hmm.
they set up a program that helped them, but also focused on that age range. So when they become an adult, over 20 something, there's probably no support anymore for them, which
Oh,
uh, they might go back to being suicidal again. It's all about changing our mindsets, changing the way of life, changing the way we think, changing the way we live to accommodate some uh, behaviors, uh, to support each other when we see some signs. Because there's really um, no specific. I haven't gone through any formal education, even if it's just a 1 day course or something that is going on in the community, which I didn't specifically search by myself, probably on YouTube or on something,
yeah,
where you are being taught how to check your emotions, how to talk about your feelings, how to deal with some certain situations when you're struggling, who to talk to, how to reach out to people, how to not suffer alone. None of that were taught to us. All you can find is how to be smarter, how to make more money, how to be stronger
yeah.
mentally.
I think the as a social media isn't great. I mean, the examples, the fine examples of social media men right now for young men are people that and they really say you have to be wealthy, you have to look muscly, you have to yeah, be tough and everything. While yeah, that's quite wrong. And I was thinking while you were talking about what can we give our listeners or viewers to take with them. And in theory, it's very easy. If you feel you have a bad day, reach out to a friend to talk about it. Like Simon Sinek always say, never sit in the mud alone. So if you're sad, call someone. That's what he says. You have to call someone. You have to have this one friend that you can call whenever you feel bad. Don't sit in the mud alone. So you can talk about it. I think it's brilliant advice. It's so true, but it's also so hard
Yeah,
because if you feel bad, you don't want to be a burden to anyone. You are sitting there in the mud
exactly.
and you go like, no, I'm not going to invite my friends here in the shit pool because I'm already in the mud. So you'll have to make that step to realize you're feeling bad and you don't have to sit alone in the mud. But that's the hard part. especially when you feel pride, you feel maybe the fear of being rejected over your feelings, or
Mm.
you wanna you don't want to show weakness, because having emotions could be a sign of weakness. Or you don't want to be a burden to anyone. And the other side of the story is, if you are someone's friend and you see that he's down a little bit. There's this video that had become viral about the guy that's sitting at a stadium. He's sitting and watching a game, and many people go by and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm good, I'm good." But everyone sees he's not good. But he goes like, "No, no, no, I'm good, I'm good." And no one goes like, "Hey, man, are you okay? Are you really okay?" Because I feel like you're not okay. So I'm gonna sit here with you, and let's just be, right. I don't have to fix your issue, but I'm just gonna sit there acknowledging you're not okay. Um, Basically, go sit in the mud with him.
Yeah.
And that's the fucked up part about this, because I didn't know I had to sit in the mud with my friend. He didn't call me and say, "Listen, I'm sitting in the mud." It was already too late. So all the events before that, yeah, and that's the hard part about a situation like this. You always go into a structure of blame, where you go like, what should I have done differently? What did I do wrong? How could I have saved him? Because that's what you want. You want to save him. Um, and
Yeah.
the feeling that you get when you can't, and you didn't know, and you didn't get the signal, makes you feel very,
Here's the
yeah,
thing. As a friend, uh, you might feel certain way, but you can imagine how you will feel as a spouse, that you missed all the signs, all the indications that your partner is not feeling well. Maybe you found you kind of noticed it, but you didn't know it has been this bad, that it
yeah.
all ended in in the bad way.
I don't know.
So
I I I tried to understand more about this, so I started researching the concept of suicide. So I was reading into research about. Uh, I mean, many times people succeed in committing suicide, but sometimes they don't, and then the person that tries to commit suicide survives. And there are basically two categories of survivors. The one category that didn't want to kill themselves in the first place, but they were seeking a way of getting attention. Okay, fair enough. That's one way of asking help, but at least they didn't die, and hopefully they get help. The second category is the people that attempted to commit suicide, but they survived for some reason, um, and they specifically focused on that group because they wanted to know what went through them while doing it. And one of the things that really struck with me, really hit hard, is the fact that they all thought the world was better off without them. So they didn't ask for help because they didn't feel like they needed help. They just needed to end their lives, because then the world would be a better place. They convinced themselves the world was better off without them. And that's just makes it even harder to help people that. So if you are in that state of mind, it's very hard for them to ask for help, because they're not going to ask for help, because they are feeling that they're the unlimited burden of everyone, and they just want to end it. So somewhere before that happens, before you that state of mind happens, people, you have to, yeah, intercept it
it,
yourself. And
maybe not specifically that the world is better off, but I'm just thinking they are probably thinking the world will go on without them, with or without them in it, because they are the one in pain, right? And they just want to end that pain.
yeah,
And to because when they are in pain, the world still goes on. If they are out of pain, the world will continue to go on. So they just want to end that pain.
yeah, well, this was what came from that specific part of a piece of research that I found. But I I think it's not a black or white thing. So you're probably right. I don't know. The thing that struck me most is the fact that um, people won't ask for help because they don't feel like they need help, because they just want to not be a burden to anyone anymore, right? So how do you convince them they're not a burden, whatever their condition is or whatever their situation is. So that's just hard. Uh, and yeah, I still feel that,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, I also, yeah, I try to reach out to my friends more often. I just call them whenever I notice that there are. It's especially one of the things you notice it about is that they lower the amount of communication you usually have with them. So with close friends, you usually have like weekly chats or anything or text, and you see that's going down. That's a sign, because
Mm.
people that are struggling usually they step back a little bit out of the social context, stuff like that. But still, these are not. It's not. I don't think that there's a formula that you can.
Yeah, there's no formula, and I'm not sure if the suicide rate is going up over the years, or it's the same, or it's going down. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if there's any data about that.
I Yeah, I
Uh,
haven't researched the topic before we started checking. I can quickly
yeah,
have a look.
so it I was actually thinking a few days ago. I was just I don't know what I was thinking about, and then I was thinking most people that commit suicide. Oh yeah, I think I read the news about a millionaire, a tech millionaire that committed suicide a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking, why is it that people that commit suicide are the ones that are financially okay? The ones that are not financially okay just continue to struggle. I mean, there are people living on the street literally, and they never thought about committing suicide. They can easily commit suicide anytime because they are outside in the cold, in the rain, in the heat, but they don't commit suicide. But it is the ones that are a little bit comfortable, but one way or the other, they find some themselves being miserable in some sense, and then they think suicide is the next action.
Yeah, and I also think that you will only do such a thing if you see no there is no other way out, right? So there's no hope, no. So yeah, I think that's the main demeanor. Yeah, the suicide rate. I got some world of data here. Um, in the Western countries like the U.S. and Europe, the male suicide is 4 times higher than wife, and it's specifically high middle-aged men between 45 and 49. There has a mix of trends, decrease of suicide in Asia, while the rural areas in the US have experienced a rising rate of suicide, um, especially in states with high firearm
Yeah,
availability. How about that? In general, socioeconomic factors, mental health challenges, and societal pressures contribute significantly to the elevated suicide rates in men, especially in lower income and rural areas. That's the conclusion I got from ChatGPT. So take this with a grain of salt, but it isn't sounding very different than we already found out earlier. But oh well, I think in overall, it's as someone staying behind after someone that's close to you committed suicide. It's you go through phases of anger, frustration, grief, um, and even guilt, because yeah, obviously you wanted to do something to prevent
yeah,
what happened, and after that you go, and that's why we're probably having this discussion, because I also had a sense of guilt. I also wanted to be part of preventing my friend of doing this to himself, and I couldn't, and that makes you feel very powerless, and it's very frustrating because obviously I'd rather have him around, um, in
Sure.
whatever state he would be. I mean, he had problems. That's why he probably did this. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? So, yeah. But even though he left behind his family and his friends and his everything, yeah, and that's what was the research so, yeah, so strange about the people that survived the suicide said the world is better off without me. They were very convinced about that. Even
Mm.
though the ones that they used for the research after surviving their attempt were usually very happy that it didn't succeed because they found out how much people love them and how much people would miss them.
Yeah, because they got some form of attention and help, right?
Exactly. So what if you could ask for that help without killing yourself and getting that attention without killing yourself? That's the whole point. Ask for help. Talk about
Yeah.
it. Please talk about it. That's the thing. And the other way around, if you see your friend some form of way zoning out, struggling, just reach out to them. Say, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? Just that. Just let them know you're thinking about them. I think that's just, yeah, it's a two-way thing. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's if you're into the whole world of masculinity, that this is not really part of your your journey to 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 be a little bit vulnerable or to sometimes share your emotions. But the data shows you should. So
Yeah, we sure. Though it's difficult, but it's something we can all try to learn how to do, and also how to respond when we get those kind of requests from a friend.
and as a dad, I have a son, I have a daughter, so I'll teach both to share their emotions. And sometimes one of, especially my daughter, doesn't really want to talk about emotions, which is fine. And then just I'll just sit with her, and she says, "What you doing?" I said, "I'm just sitting here. You look like you don't feel great. You don't want to talk about it. That's fine. But I'm just gonna sit here. I'm just gonna be here with you. It's fine. Just okay." And then she stares at me like, "Are you nuts?" I said, "Yeah, maybe I'm nuts, but I'm just gonna sit here in the mud." And she said, "What mud?" I said, "Well, I'll explain later." But uh, you'll have to listen to Simon Sinek. He talks a lot about mud, but oh well.
Yeah.
All right. Um, the time has come to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thanks for this.
Thank you.
It's not the easiest topic, but has to be it has to be done, right?
Yeah, that's to be done at some point.
Okay. Well, see you next week.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Bye.